Welcome to the special meeting for the City of Half Moon Bay Planning Commission on Tuesday, September 24th, 2024. At this point, Bridget is going to go over the Zoom protocol for this meeting.
I'm just going to make it short and sweet. We do have PCT live on their website and on channel 27. We are doing Spanish interpretation like always. And if you have a green card for public comment that is not scheduled on the, or a comment that's not on the agenda, you can speak at the general comment section. If not, we have time for public comment during the specific item. For those of you that are on Zoom, please raise your hand virtually and we will call upon you. I think that's it in a nutshell. We didn't have any correspondence. This is a briefing, so that's all I have. So I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Bridget. So let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Can you please conduct the roll call?
Yes. Commissioner Reddick?
I am here.
Thank you. Welcome back. Commissioner Hernandez is not here at the moment. Commissioner Gorn?
Here.
Commissioner, Vice Chair Johannes is absent this evening, and we have Chair Gossett?
Present.
Thank you. We have 3 commissioners present at this time.
Okay, so we'll move on to the approval of the minutes from June 25th, 2024. Oh, well, after.
We could do it after the minutes. All the commissioners were present that evening, so we should have a quorum to approve, if so and inclined.
I move to approve.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Okay, motion, minutes approved.
Okay, and now we will move on to public comment, and Dave Shore would.
Good evening and thank you. It's not possible to address the deficiencies of the EIR on the Hyatt Hotel project in 3 minutes of verbal comment, so more will be submitted in writing within the next week. Bottom line, this project has significant and unavoidable impacts on visual resources as clearly delineated in the EIR. Under CEQA normal procedures, this means that the project as proposed at 34 feet in height cannot be approved. For reasons unclear, staff is recommending pushing this through anyway through the mechanism of adopting a statement of overriding considerations. This strikes me as rather strange. After all, the planning department is typically enforcing regulations and code rather than encouraging working around them or ignoring the rules altogether. As a very simple analogy, if I tried to put up a 12-foot fence in my backyard, my neighbor would call the planning department, somebody would promptly be knocking on my door telling me that plainly the rules don't allow for a 12-foot fence and I can't do that. Regarding the Hyatt project, there's an analogy here. The developer has been at this for 8 or more years. He knew right from the beginning that his project was too big to comply with the LUP and city code. But he kept pushing in the hopes of wearing people down, pushing and pushing to have major exceptions made for his project. If the Planning Commission does accept a statement of overriding considerations to allow this project to go forward as presented, it will set a bad and dangerous precedent for future non-conforming projects. The overriding concerns written by planning staff for this project are quite weak, unsupported, and in some cases flatly wrong. They do not make an effective case for any actual overriding considerations. That document is merely a self-referential reiteration of project goals. It's quite unfortunate that the EIR process is structured such that you're effectively given only the choice between the project that the applicant wants or no project at all. Staff is basically daring you to turn this down with their heavy thumb on the scale. It would be much better if there could be an open and honest discussion among all parties about project alternatives which include smaller buildings of lower height, which would not impact visual resources, as was suggested by the AAC several years ago. When you consider this project 2 weeks from now, I hope that you focus on the big picture here. The ask from the developer and planning staff to make significant exceptions to the rules for this project. According to City Code, LUP, Coastal Commission, and in the opinion of most people here in town, it is not justified. I ask that you please do not get bogged down in details like plant selection and color palette. That's exactly what the developer wants you to do to divert your attention from the bigger and more important issues at play. Again, please remember the precedent set by this Planning Commission in 2022, denying the 5-foot by 12-foot Caltrans message sign. Those conditions of denial specifically called out impermissible impact to visual resources. The visual impact of this hotel upon the nature and character of our town are quite literally orders of magnitude greater than that of the denied Caltrans message sign. I know that all of you take your work very seriously, with great attention to detail and a lot of effort embedded in that. I trust that you'll make the right decision here and deny the project as proposed. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone on Zoom?
I have no one online.
Okay. All right, so we'll move on to our first public hearing item, item 1A, Objective Design Standards Briefing, and Planning Commission Subcommittee Representatives Selection.
Good evening, Chair Gossett and Commissioners. Today we'll be presenting a brief overview on the objective design standards that staff is working on with MIG as the consulting party, and we will also be encouraging you guys to select a commissioner to represent the Planning Commission as part of an ad hoc subcommittee later on in the process of developing these design standards. A bit of background on why we are developing these objective design standards. So SB 35 was previously in place, but did not currently apply to the coastal zone. SB 35 requires streamlined ministerial approval process for jurisdictions that were not making sufficient progress towards regional housing needs, and Half Moon Bay was identified as one of those jurisdictions. Therefore, under the SB 423, which now expands that into the coastal zone, Half Moon Bay would have to now comply with this effective January 1st, 2025. So this objective design standards would allow us to apply that to these projects seeking ministerial approval. This would be only applicable to qualifying projects. Typically, there's going to be an affordable aspect to these projects. It can range, mostly will apply to multifamily as well as mixed use, but it does have potential to be applicable to some other projects, and that is something that we will be looking into with the consultants. So the goal of developing these objective design standards is to develop objective design standards for multifamily housing within Half Moon Bay that will align with Half Moon Bay's character and the community. We know that it is an eclectic community, so we want to try to develop these standards with some community input so that you'll see that as there are processes for community engagement. Objective design standards are considered broad sets of definable standards that can be used to regulate new development. So these can't be subjective or up for opinions. It has to be very definable and across the board, so anyone would be able to see why those are objective. And so to qualify for ministerial review, a project would have to meet all of these objective standards. Otherwise, the project would have to apply for discretionary review. It will not supersede existing development standards, so those would, as long as those remain within the code. And concession and waivers under density bonus law may still be applicable, but they would likely have to be applied to the varying objective design standards. So there'd be some more selection that would have to happen there. The proposed work schedule with MIG, you can see as an attachment in more detail to the staff report or the memo. But it consists of 7 tasks. Starting off with task 1 is where we are now, where we're going to be doing the walking tour. And currently the consultants are beginning to work on task 2 as well, which involves the setting analysis and then hopefully soon some Coastal Commission coordination. And then we will be moving forward with design options analysis and eventually public hearings before any adoption of these amendments. And that, sorry, I just lost my train of thought, but yeah, we'd be moving forward with that adoption, which would ultimately also require Coastal Commission certification later on. The amendments could be to, would likely be within the municipal code as well as the local coastal land use plan, and within the municipal code would be Title 14, 17, and 18 is where we plan to see these. Next steps is we have a walking tour scheduled with our Architectural Advisory Committee this Thursday, September 26th at 2:30 p.m. We would like to see a planning commissioner attend the meeting. Ideally, the planning commissioner that will be selected to be a part of the subcommittee, but the planning commissioner is asked to only attend as a member of the public, and additional input would then be involved later on with the actual subcommittee meetings that could happen. Later on, we foresee an AAC and Planning Commission joint study session in November 2024, as well as a City Council study session in November or December 2024, and following that, public hearings, and ultimately are targeting City Council adoption in January 2025. And then following that would look for Coastal Commission certification if that all went well. So if you have any questions, staff is here to help answer any that we can at this time. We're still working with the consultant on some of the questions that we may have as this process develops. And then we also are hoping that the member of the ad hoc subcommittee will be selected tonight.
Thank you, Akoi. Commissioner Gorn, do you have any questions, clarifying questions?
I have no clarifying questions.
Okay, and Commissioner Ruddick doesn't. I have a couple. I don't know how easy it would be to pull up a map that would show the lots that could be impacted by this. Is that,
So
are you able to do that?
we don't have that prepared right now.
Okay.
This is something that we would be preparing as part of the process because where this could be applicable, we're still investigating exactly what. We have a general idea, but we want to ensure that we find.
Okay,
provide
so
an
that'll
accurate
probably
map.
come forward like in November?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then how many members are going to be on the committee total, including the consultant?
Yeah, just one architectural advisory committee member as well as one planning commissioner.
So it's a 4-member committee? Is that, I mean, like total in terms of the committee? Like would staff also participate?
Yeah, staff as well as some of the consultants would be involved as well.
So do you think it's like 7 people, 10 people?
Likely around six or so, I would say.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have in terms of questions.
Public comment?
Through the chair. I do have interest in being on this subcommittee, but I would like to nominate Commissioner Rick Hernandez for this.
Okay, and so, and you also want to be on the committee with Commissioner Hernandez?
I have the time. I would do it.
Okay, he's not here. I don't know how we handle nominating someone who's not present.
Well, I can perhaps shed a little light on that because I reached out to Rick the other day because knowing his sensitivity to architectural issues over the years and his, I think, good sensibility for what fits in Half Moon Bay, I thought he would be a good representative. I asked him if he would be interested in doing that, and he said absolutely.
Okay, thank you. And he did state at our last meeting that he was very interested in being on this committee, and I think I agree. He would be an excellent representative for the commission along with Commissioner Gorn. So given that we have 2 that we know want to be on this committee, I move that we nominate Could I entertain the motion? I guess that we nominate Commissioner Hernandez and Commissioner Gorn.
I'm happy to second that if staff has no trouble with two planning commissioners serving.
I think we would be okay with that. I think there's a preference for one, but I think, can accommodate two.
Great. Okay, so will you take a vote, Bridget?
Can we do public comment as well before we?
Of course. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
Does anyone on Zoom wish to speak out?
There's no one raising their hand to speak for public comment on this item.
Okay, so I'll close public comment for this item. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So we have a motion and a second. So Commissioner Reddick,
I vote yes.
Commissioner Gorn,
Yes, please.
and Chair Gossett.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, and so then we'll have a director's report.
Thank you, Chair Gossett, members of the commission. Steve McHarris, Interim Community Development Director. Just kind of tailing in on the item you just voted on, that for the tour, for the planning commissioners that will be attending, that they'll have more of a silent role in this because it will be a AAC meeting. So technically we'll have a time at the beginning of the meeting for public comment out in the field where we're meeting. The map is attached to the agenda for anybody that is interested in more detail of it. And it's really to receive input from the AAC on these design issues that you so much rely on their expertise when the projects are coming to you, that's been vetted. And that's the really key purpose for the walking tour. So they are informed, or I'm sorry, our consultant team is informed. I think your staff are well aware of what Half Moon Bay is. And they'll be able to point those things out. So there'll be opportunity at the beginning if you wanted to talk during public comment, and along the way if you'd like to talk to staff. I don't think that's an issue, but for the AAC, respecting that it is their meeting, that we'll really be asking them a few key questions, which I think we outlined in the memo as well for you. The memo they received, if you hadn't seen it, is very similar, almost identical to your memo. So you both have the same information. And then you'll come back, the commissioners will come back and report, rather than just hearing from staff, can report to the commission. And you see we have some meetings. So that's what I'm going to report on tonight, is some upcoming meetings, upcoming items. So on October 3rd, the next Planning Commission meeting at 7 o'clock is the Stone Pine Cove project that will be presented to you. The following meeting will be, and I will actually be absent that meeting, the following meeting on October 9th at 6 p.m. we have the special meeting for the Hyatt Place Hotel. And then in November, in and around the 12th, it might not be the 12th, but around there, we'll have that meeting that Akoi just mentioned with the AAC and the Planning Commission as well, joint meeting for the ODS item. The council will see something after that meeting in December, I think, and then in January, as Akoi mentioned, the target is to have them adopt it. So as I promised you early on, maybe a month ago, that this would run relatively quickly. This went from budget approval, work plan approval of the council at the end of June to RFP in July to contract, to consultant selection and contract approval, to everything you see now, the whole work scope. So I think we've done a good job delivering this. It is a fast pace, it's a lot of work on our side, but I'm confident that Half Moon Bay will pull it off and we'll actually have this in place, hopefully in January. If it takes a little longer, we will all know that. But for now, that's the scope and that's the schedule.
What's the drop dead
Well,
deadline?
technically the law says January 1st. All those new laws come into
Okay.
play and that law is effective then. The chance of a project coming in on the 1st, probably not happening.
Right. Okay,
Yeah.
so if we adopt the new guidelines at the end of January or middle of January, it would
That's the
still-
idea, is the
Okay.
third week in January, which would be the first meeting of the council, this should be on the agenda.
Okay,
So that's
great.
what we're definitely going to scope out for now. That's what we have planned.
Thank you.
That concludes my report.
At our last meeting, Commissioner Hernandez asked a question about the public transportation standards, and he wanted to know if there'd be any way to pull that into this project.
The light doesn't work on this mic, so I can't tell when it's on and off. So yes, that's been elevated to the city manager. City manager and I we're further working on that, discussing that. So that's something that we have the attention of that request, and city manager's working on that.
And one more item, Commissioner Ruddick was traveling during our last meeting, and you mentioned that there was something going on with the Seymour dump, and
yeah.
I don't know if there's anything to
I forgot that you were back at this meeting.
Yes. And we wanted you to know about
so
that.
I did want to wait till you were back, and now I think it's even appropriate maybe that we have, because we had two commissioners asking about it, and I did say when they were both here.
Okay.
So actually, I'm in luck.
Actually, Commissioner Joannis is watching.
Oh, she's watching. Well, I don't have the.
Oh, you don't have
I didn't have it ready for today. I wasn't aware that
Okay.
she'd be. Well, she's watching, but not participating. But
not participate.
I get it. So I will not be at the next meeting. So I don't know if I'll have a report through somebody else, but I will certainly have that information for you. Last I reported out, and last time I checked, is that the county had not gotten back to some of the questions we had for them to answer your question, because I actually don't know, but staff didn't have the latest information either. That has to come from the county, so I will follow up on that. Yeah, and if I find out something earlier, maybe I could even let you know, but I'm happy to report it out publicly.
Okay. Are there any other planning commissioner communications? No. Okay. Would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I know we set a record, maybe 20 minutes. Yes.